Conflict can get messy and negotiations can be tense. Have you ever thought if only they would just listen? Why don't they understand? Like many of you, I've been on one end of a disagreement or in the position of negotiating for something I needed or wanted. I spent years as a manager in the restaurant industry. I served as a member on numerous nonprofit boards. I was even once a town official. Add that to being a sister of 4 brothers and especially a mom to 3 sons, and you can imagine that I have engaged in my share of negotiations and conflicts. One thing I know for sure is that communication is the key to a resolution, and rapport is the key to effective communication. We all know what conflict is. We learned that in week 1 of this course. Conflict is an expressed struggle between at least 2 interdependent parties who perceive incompatible goals, scarce resources, and interference from others in achieving their goals. That's a tall order. Conflict is an expressed struggle between at least 2 interdependent parties who perceive incompatible goals, scarce resources, and interference from others in achieving their goals. Now let's look at the definition of rapport. The Oxford Dictionary says, a close and harmonious relationship in which the people or groups concerned understand each other's feelings or ideas and communicate well. Merriam-Webster says a relationship characterized by agreement, mutual understanding, or empathy that make communication possible or easy. Cambridge Dictionary describes rapport as a good understanding of someone and an ability to communicate with them. I believe that rapport is the best communication approach for conflict and negotiations. And I'm going to show you the many ways in which you can establish rapport with anyone. According to Janice Nadler, Associate Professor of Law at Northwestern University and Research Fellow of American Bar Foundation, in her report titled Rapport in Negotiation and Conflict Resolution, rapport is linked to cooperation and sharing critical information, as well as reducing ultimatums, threats, and impasses. In addition, empirical evidence suggests that rapport fosters cooperative behavior that is essential for positive outcomes in negotiated conflicts. Self-help guru Tony Roberts gives a talk called Best Methods to Build Rapport. He starts off by saying, rapport is power. Again, he says, rapport is power. Roberts says rapport is created by a feeling of commonality. One way to find commonality is through questions that could lead to answers and eventually zero in on some commonalities. For example, when meeting someone for the first time, you might ask some questions and make connections to create a feeling of commonality. Another way to establish commonality is through prior affiliation. In a study of actual legal disputes, cooperation stemming from affiliation or a prior relationship has been confirmed to be helpful in settlement negotiations. Nadler cites other key findings that were uncovered in a laboratory study, that affiliation produces rapport, which in turn reduces the likeliness of impasses. Additionally, in the absence of affiliation, less rapport is developed, and negotiators are less likely to come to an agreement. Have you ever met someone who just walks into a room and instantly connects with everybody in the room? My brother's like that. We call him the Golden Boy. He has always been likable, even when we were little kids. When we were all in trouble, we'd send him in first to smooth things over with the folks. He actually works as a consultant and does very well today. Some people just have a knack for instantly connecting with others. You might think some people aren't suited for it. Mind Tools, a for-profit organization that teaches leadership and management skills, explains that rapport building can be a gift, but it can also be a skill that's learned and perfected. With practice, anybody can build rapport. Some tips they include in their curriculum are: first impressions count. Dress appropriately. Remember basic communication rules. Be culturally appropriate. Smile. Relax. Remember people's names. Hold your head up and maintain good posture. Listen carefully and attentively, and don't outstay your welcome. Identifying common ground can help to establish rapport, so use small talk and find something that you both share. Again, commonality. Most people like talking about themselves, and the more genuine interest you show them, the more likely they are to relax and open up. Use open-ended questions to discover personal information. Perhaps you attended the same college, shared the same hobbies, grew up in the same city, or supported the same sports team. Even just expressing your shared frustration with the traffic that delayed your journey getting there could draw you closer to someone. Communication experts say there are other ways to significantly increase rapport, including mirroring, pacing, and leading. One key element to consider when utilizing these techniques is that people like people who are similar to themselves, who are in agreement with them, or simply just interested in them. Simple actions that confirm you are being attentive can help, such as head nods, forward leans, or a simple uh-huh, can go a long way to establishing rapport. Nadler suggests that people who feel in sync with each other have a sense of rapport. Mimicry is a well-known tool for developing rapport. This technique needs to be used carefully and discreetly. There are studies that back up this idea. In one study, half the participants were mimicked by the other person in the interaction and half were not. Participants who were mimicked rated the interaction as more smooth and harmonious than those who were not. In the same study, when people were motivated to create an affiliation with another person, they automatically and unconsciously increased their mimicry behavior to accomplish the goal. Based on theories developed by Milton Erickson, who was noted for his approach to the unconscious mind as being creative and solution-generating, Robbins explains how it works. He says people like people who are like themselves or who are like how they would like to be. Let me say that again. People like people who are like themselves or who are like how they would like to be. One way to be like someone else is to mirror or match them. We actually do this without even thinking about it. One study done at Ohio State University by Chartrand and Lakin concluded results suggested that behavioral mimicry may be part of a person's repertoire of behaviors, used non-consciously when there's a desire to create rapport. Robbins and Nadler agree that mimicry is a simple way to build rapport. Nadler explains, to the extent that our behaviors are synchronized with those of others, we feel more rapport. This increases our trust in those whom we communicate. Such rapport-based trust is particularly useful during negotiation. Robbins challenges us to try it for ourselves. There are a number of ways in which we can mirror others' behaviors. Let's contemplate speech. We can match tone, tempo, or terminology. If someone speaks in a loud voice like this, would we be building rapport by coming into the conversation with a soft little voice like this? They might get the impression that we're a pushover. Or switch it up. If you came into a quiet little conversation and you came in with a big, loud, boisterous voice, most likely they'd think you weren't one of them and you would not be establishing rapport. Fast talkers should be met with fast talk. Slow talkers should be met with slow talk. It can be very unnerving if a person is talking in a really slow drawl and the person they're communicating with is talking really, really fast. Little rapport will be the result. Another element of negotiation to consider would be terminology. For example, if I was planning on meeting with some town officials to talk about some permitting process, I would be wise to do my homework and learn the language so I could build rapport when we delved into the process. Now let's consider other ways in which our actions can build or break rapport. Consider space. We should pay attention how close we are to the next person. Follow their lead. If you walk up to someone and they cringe back because you're too close, take the hint. Similarly, if you go to shake someone's hand and their hand goes limp, don't squeeze the heck out of it, and vice versa. If the person has a firm handshake, go ahead and reciprocate. If you walk into a room and everybody's comfortably seated, and it would be wise to join them in their posture and not sit straight up stiff on the edge of your chair, because they might worry why you're so nervous. Facial expressions are something to mirror as well. This would include eye contact. If your counterpart holds eye contact, you do the same. If not, don't follow. If not, follow suit. Don't fall into the old school trap that says, whatever you do, lock eyes and don't look away. You might frighten somebody. Robbins even suggests that if you really want to build rapport, you can use simple mimicry to put your counterpart at ease. For instance, if they're sitting cross-legged and shaking their foot back and forth, you should do the same. Studies have shown that this works to develop affiliation, which in turn builds rapport. Chartrand and Lakin found that non-conscious mimicry is related to rapport and liking. Rapport between two people increases behavioral mimicry, and mimicry also increases rapport. The reciprocal nature is fascinating. Of course, you can't just mimic someone in a blatant and annoying way. Reminisce of the childhood games that we used to play with our brothers. Oh, sorry, that was me. These are all good examples of ways to build rapport. In person. Unfortunately, much of our interactions are not in person these days. With technology as an ever-present communication tool, rapport building takes on a different level of attention. One study found that rapport continues to be critical and is the basis for creating trust, so remains necessary even without face-to-face connections. Researchers found that pairs of negotiators who were shown photographs of each other before the negotiation began reported greater rapport than those who were not shown photographs. Today, we could show each other our websites and get to know each other that way, or use Skype, or Zoom, or any one of those software programs, web-based programs, to have an interaction without actually being in the same room. Additionally, when the means of communication must be conducted over the telephone or computer, verbal skills will be relied on much more heavily. So to recap, we learned why building rapport will be helpful in any conflict negotiations as a way to create an understanding and empathetic atmosphere where negotiations can happen. Studies have proven it is well worth the effort for a positive outcome to any interaction. We also explored the many strategies in which we can practice rapport building skills to be better negotiators. Mirroring and matching can be used in relation to voice, tempo, tone, and terminology. Additionally, we can pay attention to space and match others' postures, positions, proximity, and eye contact. And lastly, we touched on the difficulties you might have while building rapport considering technological advances. In conclusion, I would encourage all of you to practice some rapport building skills whenever you have the opportunity. That way, you'll be ready when the time comes when rapport can help you in a very important negotiation. Thank you.